Hey guys, what's up? It's Anthony. Yes, I'm reviewing yet another movie. This movie was also recommended to me by my friend John, aka Detox. Thank you so much for all of the recommendations. I've been getting to seeing all of them one by one, and I'm reviewing all of them. So you're getting quite a bit of movie reviews, which, you know, I'm having fun doing. You're probably going to see this more regularly on my channel, so yeah. Anyway, so this movie is I watched this last night. This is the 2007 film The Mist, which is based on the Stephen King novel of the same name. Stephen King novel of the same name. Yes. I had not heard of this particular film until John recommended it to me, and I heard it's kind of like he told me it was like really weird, which in some ways it pretty much is. So this is a movie about a painter who does movie posters named David, who has a wife and a son who live, by in this little town in Maine, and they have a they had like a mini sort of hurricane happen, and their tree pretty much destroys part of their house. So they wake up and a lot of these trees just fall down and down, and they're just like, oh shoot, So it's like they're trying to, like, okay, we gotta get this settled. And David has, like I said, David has a son and a wife, and they're just like hanging around, and all of a sudden the sun like looks way past, and there's this whole cloud, this like mist that like you see, but doesn't really become a huge thing until a little bit later. So by the way, I'm not gonna try to spoil anything, sort of like Vivarium. So then David's neighbor, drives in, and David and the neighbor don't really get along because of lawsuits that happened. So the neighbor's kind of a jerk. So they drive together to the supermarket, and all of a sudden, as they are driving to the supermarket, by the way, David is taking only his kid to the supermarket with the neighbor. So they notice all these army trucks come by, and they're like, oh shoot, this is actually serious. And so they pick up food in the supermarket, and all of a sudden there's this guy who, with blood on himself, is like, hurry, hurry, get in. Something took one of the guys in the town, and all of a sudden, people start disappearing. All of a sudden, the mist from I mentioned before starts coming through the entire neighborhood, and like everywhere, and like people are starting to disappear one by one by one. You don't know it, but everyone's basically trapped in this supermarket, and they have to basically survive. They don't know what's making people disappear, although you later find out later that I don't know. Maybe I'll talk about that in a second. But everyone tries to like get in, and of course the neighbor thinks it's all like ridiculous. It's just like, oh, it's just weather problems and all, and but it's like people are disappearing, so everyone's scared, of course. And there's all sorts of characters. There's this woman who brought a Colt 45 with her, who's takes care of the David's kid mostly. And of course there's this the supermarket guys who, funny enough, I didn't know. I looked him up. His name, the guy who plays Ollie, he was the voice of Dobby in Harry Potter. So I had never seen him act in any film prior to that, like actually like live action. So it was kind of cool to see him. Of course, but anyway, so everyone's just like trying to survive, and people leave, and then they go in the back with David goes in the back for the regenerator, because it's kind of overrunning. They try to fix it, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh," with some of the employees, like, "Oh, are you gonna go out there? You gotta." And David's like, "No, this isn't a good idea." And then they open the back, and then you see this weird, I don't know. This is also considered sort of a science fiction horror film, by the way, because there's a lot of weird creatures that you'll see in the film. It's including the one with the tentacles, and one of the monsters with the tentacles ends up killing one of the workers. And they're malicious. Like, they have, like, tentacles with, like, thorns on them, and, like, they grab you and stuff and open your skin. It's really, really graphic. I will say, though, some of the graphics were pretty good. Some of them are pretty craptastic, I have to say. But, it's just because it's 2007, so, But then again, I've seen better ones from that year, that like Transformers, but, I'm not going to rag on it too much. It looks passable, I'll say. But just be warned, you're going to see some, like, 2007 graphics with some of those creatures. So, now they're really freaking out, and they're trying to figure out a way to survive, and there's this really crazy religious woman in there who's, like, "Oh, you're all going to die," kind of like one of those, like, really crazy Christians. So, yeah, it's just a crazy, crazy film of just survival in this supermarket, and just trying to, figure, like, if you didn't have electricity or any form of communication whatsoever, what would you do? And so it sort of, like, pens that question with everybody. So you're, like, trying to see how are they going to survive it, and how are they going to... Well, I mean, of course they have plenty of food because it's in a supermarket, so they're checked out right there. Plus they have a bathroom that works. But had they not had those things, makes you wonder how they would survive. So anyway, I really, really liked this movie. It was freaking weird. The ending was weird, too. I felt it was a really... I mean, it's Stephen King, so, depending on... Some of his stories, have happy endings. Some of them have, like, really bleak endings. So, I'm just going to say that. You get this movie on DVD and Blu-ray, and Blu-ray 4K. You can look online. I watched it via Amazon Prime because I have a subscription to that. It's a pretty long movie, too. It's almost like 2 hours, if not 2 hours. And I think it, usually with a horror film, you want to, like, kind of cut the meat of the bones, There probably could have been some stuff watching it that I probably could have trimmed out a little bit, like maybe have less of the religious woman. But then again, she does play a pretty big part in the film, believe it or not. Now, usually with those kind of movies, they're like the woman, those characters are kind of like put to the side. But you'll see if you ever watch the film. It was really good, really weird at points. If you love science fiction horror films with, like, creatures and all that, plus it's very much got a feel of, like, something that would have come out in the 80s. Like, I feel like they were trying to get that 80s horror film vibe for sure, and it definitely shows. And yeah, so I definitely recommend The Mist. Definitely watch it. Yeah, so that is my movie review of The Mist. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll have another movie review hopefully pretty soon. And yeah, so take care, and I'll see you in the next video.